Well, I have a really wonderful, transformative journey that you're going to go on with me, and it is the hero's journey. Now, I know a few weeks ago I talked about the hero's journey, but I must have some kind of resonance going on, so you're going to get some more about the hero's journey. Whenever I write the title and the description for my talk, I haven't actually written my talk. So a few weeks ago, when I talked about the hero's journey, was probably just after I wrote the title for this talk, but then this talk came up and I went, oh, darn. I already talked about that, but there is so much more to talk about because this is the story about me, but it's also a story about you. Because the hero's journey is your journey. You are the hero of your own story. You are the person, the hero, the heroine. You are the epic, mythical soul that is going through this transformative process. And I really want you to take yourself on. I want you to look at your life as an opportunity for you to step into a greater sense of yourself. Now, the hero's journey is really cool because it starts off in one point, and there's a call, something that's calling for adventure, and then you step into that adventure, you cross the threshold, and you encounter challenges, difficulties, trials, tribulations, and you're surrounded by allies and mentors and people who show up that help you step into your greatness. And you go into this journey. So you start off here and you go in here, and then you come around and you end at the same place that you started at, but you end in an evolved place. You end as a transformed person. And then you start again and you go up because we're in an ever-evolving spiral of humanity. And in each of these calls, there's a personal call. And if you're willing to take on your own personal call, then you can also be the embodiment of a collective call. And if you're the embodiment of a collective call, you can be involved in the embodiment of a human call for greatness. But it all starts with you and with me and our own willingness to answer the call. Ernest Holmes said that life is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be unwrapped. And the hero's journey, the stories, the myths, the legends, the narratives that we consume, they frame our lives. And they allow us to call ourselves into a greater sense of possibility because of those stories. And whether they're fictional or factual, it doesn't matter. What matters is that underlying archetype of who we are and how it calls to our soul. So I invite you to consider that the hero's journey is your journey. That Joseph Campbell, when he identified this hero's journey, he was just identifying a paradigm in which we can live our lives. And also storytellers tell the paradigm in this particular way because they know there's a resonance. There's a resonance to this hero's journey with our own journey of life. So I wonder if you want to be the protagonist of your own life. Do you want to be the person who steps into that evolutionary sense of yourself and to perceive your own life as this hero's journey? In the 8th grade, I read the Odyssey. Anybody else read the Odyssey? Anybody? Yeah, a couple of people. It's a big book. It's very thick. It's about Odysseus. And Odysseus leaves home. He goes through all these trials and tribulations. He has to sail the seas and resist the sirens and, go even hide and try and sneak into his own house at the very end. But at the very end of the story, he comes back transformed. And that's an example of a mythic story. But there are people who are doing those mythic stories. I think about Malala Yousafzai. And she was a girl in Pakistan, and during the Taliban, who basically said no women can become educated. And so she was sneaking around to go to school so she could be educated, so she could learn. And there was a guard who found out that she was going to school, and they shot her in the head. And she survived. And she survived to become an advocate for women's education, saying that all girls, all women deserve to be educated. And she was willing to stand up with her life to take a stand for what she felt like every human deserved. And she continues to be an international speaker, speaking about the importance of this around the world. Because when we educate ourselves, we become empowered. And when people are empowered, they become scary because they are willing to ask questions and find out things on their own. And so it's much easier to keep people ignorant than it is to keep people empowered if you want to be overpowering other people. But if you want to take a stand for love and a stand for humanity, like Malala, sometimes you have to stand up in the face of the greatest opposition, standing up for her life in order to stand up for others. So she's an example of somebody who I admire and I appreciate. But it doesn't have to be that big of a stand. You know, your own hero's journey, it could be about overcoming a debilitating fear, or embarking on a creative endeavor that you've put off for years, or maybe taking on your own health and well-being as a hero's journey, or speaking up for yourself, or pursuing a lifelong dream of travel. Because the hero within is not defined by the outside explorations that we're doing, but the inside that we're connecting with and stepping into the greater sense of our beingness. So the first step is the call. The first step is the call to adventure. It could be a subtle whisper or a roar, but I guarantee you, you each have a call. Every single person has a call. And it's a moment of awakening, a call that maybe it's like, oh, I want to learn a new skill, or I want to reconnect with a loved one, or I want to take action on a social issue, or I want to release these habits that are no longer serving me, and I want to step into a new way of being. And you have to recognize that that call is happening now. And it happens in all different areas. There was a time when I was in a relationship and we were engaged to be married, and I wanted a deepening of my relationship. And so I was answering the call, and I was doing my spiritual practice, and I was learning about that. And what happened is we broke up. But then I realized that that's because I was looking for that relationship to complete me instead of the completion of me within myself. And I started looking at the call of what is relationship with myself, what is relationship with the divine, what's it like to date the divine, what's it like to do this with the infinite presence. And when I was in a place where I was good with my relationship with myself and my relationship with the divine, all of a sudden my current wife came into my life. And there was a time whenever I wanted to purchase a house, but my wife and I had purchased a house, and we had gone through hard times, and we had to have a short sale, and it ruined all of our credit. And so how do you buy a house after you have a history where you've made a mistake, or you haven't, you have all these blockages in your way? How do you do that? Will you go on this call to adventure and you realize just because you fell one time doesn't mean it's the end of your story? Just because you get in opposition or you have a challenge or a difficulty doesn't mean it's impossible, because the infinite presence is the place where all possibilities reside. And so you have to be willing to take the next right indicated step, and the next right indicated step, and the next right indicated step. Each of you may have a call. Maybe it's to be flourishing in your finances. Maybe it's to be in a relationship. Maybe it's to have the job of your dreams. Maybe it's to be in service. Maybe it's to leave a legacy. Maybe it's to take your body on as its own hero's journey. So what is your call to adventure? What is your call to action? What is your personal growth opportunity? I was looking at this, I learned about a new field, a field called narrative psychology. And there's a work from a man named Dan McAdams on narrative identity. He suggests that how we frame our life stories significantly impacts our well-being and personal growth. By recognizing and embracing a call to adventure or a growth mindset, that's what we teach here, we teach a growth mindset, then you start creating a story that is working in your favor. You start creating a way of being that helps you out so you're thriving in all areas of your life. So one way to start your adventure, you might be hearing your call, but you need to set that intention for transformation. Set that intention for, I know that as I step into this, I am transformed through the process. And I'm transformed in a way that brings out my highest and greatest good. I became a minister in 2011, and I became a minister in August, and then I went with Kathy Ann in CSL Seattle. I was not here at the time, I was in San Jose, but I went on this spiritual tour, and it was an adventure for me. And I declared, before I even went on the adventure, when I signed up, I decided that this was gonna be a trip of transformation for me. Did I know how? No, I just knew I needed to sign up. I didn't know why, I didn't know what was going to unfold. But what happened is I got this call to start my own Center for Spiritual Living, which I did. I started Center for Spiritual Living Peninsula, and that community is still around. But I had no idea that was gonna happen. When I went through ministerial school, I was like, the one thing I'm not gonna do is start my own center. And then, a few months later, I go on this Peru trip and I get awakened and I get called to start my own center. So, sometimes God laughs at your intentions to begin with, but it was good. It was really good. So if you want to set an intention for your call, set your intention for transformation for the betterment of yourself. So once you've identified the call, find out what is the first step I can take. What is one step that I can take? If I want to call myself into greater health and well-being, what is one thing I can do? Well, one thing I can do is I can not eat through my lunches only and just hang out at my desk, but maybe I can actually eat and go on a walk. And maybe I can carve out time so I don't schedule meetings during my lunch. And maybe I could even find workout buddies that I can go on walks with, or I can go to the gym with. So what is the next right indicated thing? What's one thing? And once you choose to answer the call, you have to cross the threshold. You have to take the first step. And what happens when you cross the threshold? Your fears, your doubts, your worries come up. And how do we cross the threshold with courage? We have mentors and allies who join us along the process. Now, I have had minister mentors. I've had people in this teaching who I've reached out to and I've said, I don't know how to do this. I can't figure this out. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. And they guide me so I can know my inner knowing in stepping forward in the next right indicated thing. And think about it. If there's something in your call, who are the people who've done the thing that you've done? Who are the people that already know how to do the thing that you've done? Who are the people who are your cheerleaders and they want to uplift you in your greatest success? Surround yourself with those people. I can tell you here, we have practitioners, and man, those practitioners, they love to pray. They love to see your highest good, and they love to claim it, and they love to pray and accept it on your behalf. They are so amazingly powerful. 60 practitioners in this community. Every Sunday, there are practitioners online waiting. There are practitioners in the prayer circle. There's practitioners in the back of the room. There's practitioners answering the daily email requests. There's the phone call requests that come in. There's a whole group that come through and they are praying without ceasing for your highest good. You could hire your own professional practitioner, But whoever it is, I'm not attached to that. I'm just saying, surround yourself with people who are willing to uplift you and see the highest good in you. You know, John Donne said, "No man is an island entirely of himself." And I would call that more like, I just see it like redwood trees. So I was in California, the redwood forest area. They're very big. I mean, they're like bigger than this piano around. Like, they're huge. And they grow up so tall, really, really tall. But the cool thing about redwood trees is they have very shallow roots. And the way they're able to grow so tall and be so strong in the face of adversity is because they're all interconnected. They're all interconnected, and that's like us. Each of us is like a redwood tree, but we're connected. We're strengthened by that support system that surrounds us. And so take advantage of your allies, of your mentors, of your support system. Get a prayer sangha, a prayer group, a group of people that are willing to champion who you are. You know, Harriet Tubman had abolitionist allies. She was able to courageously walk into slave plantations and tell people that they were free and they deserved to be free, and to lead them into freedom, because there was a group of people, of white people, who knew that what was going on was not right, and they were willing to risk their lives just as much as she was willing to risk her life for all of these people to be put into freedom. So Harriet Tubman didn't do this alone, although she was guided by her inner conviction, her inner knowingness that she was on this call to adventure and that it was worth it for her. But she also had all of the people along the way. So when she freed people, she knew there was a support system for them to go to feel sheltered, to feel protected on their way to freedom. I think about, you know, how would have Luke Skywalker done without Obi-Wan Kenobi? You know, each person, we all need those people who are willing to take a stand for us, to guide us along our journey. And don't be afraid to reach out for guidance. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. And don't be afraid to also be the person that helps another. It goes both ways. And just as much as there's areas of my life that I've stepped into and I can show as an example of possibility, I also need those people that show me what else is possible. And so I can uplift others as others uplift me. And that's how we create a world that works for everyone. Everybody has that. Everybody has that ability. So just like any epic story, the hero's journey is rarely smooth sailing. It's not easy. I mean, how many stories or movies have you watched where it just all, there's like, oh, I want this, and then, okay, there it is. Okay. It's not. It's okay though, because it's those obstacles that give us an opportunity to stand in our truth. They give us an opportunity to practice our practice, to be open to possibility. When I started Sister Spirit Retreat, first of all, I was mentored by a group of women who had started Women's Spirit Retreat. And they gave me all of their wisdom. They said, this is what we've learned after 18 years of having a successful retreat. Do this and you'll be successful. And now I'm embarking on my 18th year of Sister Spirit because of them. But it wasn't easy along the way. The first year when I wanted to start, I had all this great ideas, and then we went and searched for a retreat center, and retreat centers to have all of these women who were like, you know, if there's no room service, then it's rustic, and they were different from the Women's Spirit women. I mean, the Women's Spirit women were like, we were going to these camps, and it was like in the toilet. Okay, I'm going to tell you. If it's pee, let it be. If it's brown, flush it down. Okay, that's the kind of camp that the women's spirit were camping at. And then I went to San Jose, and the women were like, if there's no room service, it's pretty rustic for me. And so I was like, okay, this is a different group of women that we have to find the right and perfect camp for, right? So we found the perfect camp, and we had interviewed all these camps all over California. We had gone traveling all over. And when we found this camp, they said, okay, well, you need to reserve your spot by putting 25% down. So I went to my center, San Jose, Center for Spiritual Living. I said, hey, you proved me starting this retreat. We need 25% down. We're imagining 50 people. It's a lot of money. Now, lo and behold, they had not budgeted for this new retreat that I had just planned, and they said, we can't give you that. Now, a lot of the women who I was with were like, oh, well, then it's not going to be, we can't do this retreat. Like, oh, gosh, we don't have the money. It's not going to happen. And I was like, no, this is just an opportunity for us to get creative. And so we did. We got creative. First of all, we all committed as the team members who were planning the retreat that we would pay for the retreat 100%. So all of us paying 100% left a very small gap of money left over. And then we decided to do a dance-a-thon. And we would dance our way to earning money to the retreat, which was very successful. And we were able to have Sister Spirit for the very first year. And so just because you have an obstacle doesn't mean it's the end of your story. Just because there's opposition or there's something that's there that is stopping you in that moment doesn't mean that you're not supposed to have that thing at the end. It just means that the infinite world is a world of infinite possibility. God's source, the universe, is a place where all things are possible. And when I tune into that awareness, I allow myself to be guided to the next right indicated thing. So a dance-a-thon was crazy. I thought, this is a crazy idea, but what do we have to lose? We didn't have anything to lose because we didn't have anything in the first place. So each thing that is your obstacle maybe isn't an obstacle for you to know that you're failing. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to get creative and for you to do your spiritual practice and for you to allow yourself to open up to all possibilities. One of the things that you can recognize is some of the greatest battles are not fought with weapons. They're fought within ourselves. And so sometimes the biggest opposition is our own self-talk, is our own self-awareness. Like, oh, I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough. I am not lovable. I'm not smart enough. If any of these things have played in your head, I can tell you that they are not the truth of you. Because the truth of you is always something that will say, you are magnificent, you are deserving, you are adored, you are worth it. That's the truth of you. So whatever that voice is that is implanted in your beingness was not implanted by you either. It was probably implanted by a family member, a friend, somebody who told you somewhere along the way that you weren't worth it, or you didn't deserve it, or you're not enough. You can't have it. Somewhere somebody implanted that in you, but it's not the truth of you. So how do you undo those things? Well, you have to recognize, oh, I have this script, or I have this voice, or I have this fear. But the courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And the courage is not allowing that script or that voice to have more power than the voice of the infinite one. Because you know the infinite one is the one that empowers you. And so how do we do that? We can write prayers for ourselves. We can have prayers we can have others write prayers for us. We can do affirmations and repeat them over and over again so they seep into our consciousness, just like whatever that was seeped into our consciousness. Well, I don't want that anymore, so I'm going to implant a new paradigm into my consciousness. I'm going to allow a new possibility to open up in me. So reframe your inner critic. Recognize and know that fear and doubt is natural, but it is not as powerful as your inner truth, as your inner well-beingness. I encourage you to embrace the power of journaling or embrace the power of an accountability buddy. Allow yourself to track progress, challenges, insights, revelations, miracles, things that you've done to actively recognize this is something that is your new way of being in life, and for you to track and see the miracles happening along the way. I recognize that sometimes even that isn't the only thing that helps, but sharing it with another. Sharing the revelation, sharing the good news, telling other people that, wow, I said this affirmation like 300 times. Oh my God, I keep saying it, but finally, I got it. And it's sunk in. And it's making a difference. And I know that, whenever I said the affirmation years ago, I'm flexible, fit, strong, muscular, fluid, powerful, all of those things. And my one affirmation, I knew it was going to happen the next day. Like, I can't build a muscle in one day. I have to keep doing it over and over and over again until it becomes a habit, until it becomes a way of being. And every time I go and choose that one thing over and over again, the thing that I want to have in my life, I start creating and building up the new paradigm for myself. And it takes me sometimes falling off and then getting back on, and falling off and getting back on. But if the majority of the time I'm getting back on, then that's the majority of the time where I'm going, where I'm heading in that direction. It's just like autopilot on an airplane. I always think about that. An autopilot on an airplane, the pilot puts it on, and the airplane goes off track, and the autopilot puts it back, and it goes off track, autopilot puts it back on track. And so just because you are walking this way one day, you can just walk back on track the next day. And just continue as long as the majority of your time you're heading in a particular direction, your life will be transformed. And that's the power of this teaching, is that you are empowered to be your highest and best self. And we all have these areas to work on. We all have places. As a matter of fact, I realized there was a certain area in ministry where I felt like I was in a plateau. Life is great. Life is good. In ministry, this is great. It's a plateau. But then what's next? What's next? You might be doing well, but did you know that there's another level? There's another level of wellness. There's another level of goodness. There's another way that you can experience an even greater expansion in your life, because there's no limit to the good that you can have. And so you might as well keep going on the journey and looking at the next call and going on that adventure. Keep going on the spiral over and over again. Every hero eventually returns. But how are you going to talk about your story? How are you going to frame it? You always have an option. It reminds me of the Taoist saying about the farmer. So there's a farmer, his horse runs away. And the neighbors say, "Oh, God, that's so terrible, your horse ran away." And he said, "Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't." And then the next day, the horse comes back with like a whole bunch of buddies, and all of a sudden, the farmer has several horses. And the neighbors go, "Wow, that's amazing. Your horse brought back a bunch of new horses." And the farmer said, "Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't." And then the farmer's son rides one of the new horses. Well, the new horse bucks him off, and he breaks his leg. And then the neighbors say, "Oh, it's terrible. I can't believe your son broke his leg." Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The next day, the army comes into town, and they're recruiting all of the young men in the town. And they say, "Oh, your son, he's got a broken leg. He can't go in the army and go fight in the war." And they all leave with all the young men except the farmer's son. And the neighbors say, "Oh, wow, that was some good fortune, wasn't it?" And he said, "Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't." So the story is, how are you going to perceive your own story? What are you going to say? What is your perspective? Your perspective shapes your reality. So what perspective are you saying on the story? So what seems like a misfortune can be a blessing in disguise. How might you reframe any of your challenges as an opportunity for growth? So each person has their end point. Each person has the coming home point. And just like the Women's Spirit Committee taught me, and I was able to stand on the shoulders of those women and their experience in order to make a successful retreat, that wouldn't have happened unless they had shared their story with me. So where are you on your hero's journey? Where are you willing to step into that call for adventure? Maybe you're in the beginning, so you need to identify your call to adventure. Think about a significant change you'd like to experience. What would you love? And what's the first step you could take towards it? The second thing is seek out mentors. Seek out allies. Identify people who already embody the qualities you wish to have. Reach out to them for guidance. Find your group of allies who are going to support you and cheer you on as you're on this adventure. And then know that you're going to encounter different obstacles. How are you going to perceive those obstacles? Who are you going to be in them? Are you going to move through these challenges and look back at yourself like you're grateful for who you were in that adventure? That's what I want to do. Every time I have a difficult conversation or a difficult experience, I want to be the highest and best self. And sometimes it's challenging to step into that path of love and power and spiritual authority. Sometimes it's so easy to be the petty person or to be the harmful person. It's a lot harder to step into that place of, I'm going to be a person of integrity, I'm going to be a person of love, I'm going to be a person who, no matter what, I continue to walk that path. I think about Mr. Rogers and the way he continually was a stand for love and a stand for kids of all different abilities. And he wanted to be a place where he could speak this truth in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And he did it in a way that wasn't about shaming or blaming or making other people feel bad. He did it in a way where he could speak the truth of love for other kids and humans on this planet. And it's not an easy path, but it's worth it. So I encourage you, when fear and doubt arise, acknowledge them, but then create a way that your own inner truth is called forth. Create affirmations and prayers. Allow people to reflect that and see that and tell you about that. They see that in you. And I encourage you to journal your journey or find an accountability partner to speak your journey to. Write down your progress, write down your challenges, write down what you're grateful for, write down your insights. Track your growth and celebrate your victories along the way. And at the very end of this particular journey, share your story. Share your experiences with confidence. Share your experiences with others. Just like I had this ability to start a women's retreat and it's still successful and it's still going after 17 years, I wouldn't have been able to do that if it weren't for all of the miracles and the wonderful mentors and advisors I had in Women's Spirit and the people along the way that helped me along the journey. But all of that is possible because I recognize that I am on a hero's journey. And where I'm at now, I have new journeys to embark upon. I have new adventures to take. Maybe I'm going to take on my own body. Maybe I'm going to take on my own level of ministry. Maybe I'm going to take on whatever it is. What's yours? And I invite you to take yourself on. Because truly, this life was designed especially for you. And it was designed in a way for you to thrive. And it's completely possible for each and every one of you. And I want you to know that I believe in you because it's happened to me and it will happen to you and continues to do so. So let's pray. I'm so grateful to know that this universe is conspiring for my greatest adventure. And I know that this adventure is an adventure in love. It is an adventure in transformation, and it is an adventure in well-being. And I'm so grateful for the courage in myself to step forward into the call. I'm so grateful to know that the infinite universe has each and every step along the way for me, and I just need to know the next right indicated thing. And I'm so grateful to know that each challenge is really an opportunity of creative expression, of expansion, of allowing my own consciousness to say, what else is possible? And how can it get any better than this? And I know and claim that the universe fully supports me, that I'm surrounded by mentors and guides and allies, both physical and non-physical. And that each and every step of the way, I see my own transformation. And I can look back and say, I'm so proud of who I am now because of this. I'm so grateful to know that I am here to do good work in the world. And sometimes the work is on me, and in others, it inspires others to work on themselves. And sometimes the work is a collective work on humanity. But I know that every step I take along the way is a step to my further highest evolution and my highest good. And as I claim that for myself, I claim that for each and every person here. For truly, this grand adventure of life is a life conspiring for our good. And so I claim the good, I embody the good, I embrace the good, I say yes to the good, and I know that it continues to unfold in my life in miraculous ways. And for that, I'm grateful, and so it is.